Alaikum. My name is محمد القاضي. So I lived a happy childhood. Everything was great. You know, I was just surrounded by love and compassion until high school came about, where I started to come out to the outside world and interact with people, and then suddenly get some of my ideas or thoughts rejected, which, you know, happens naturally in any society. It was personally hard for me. And so at a certain point in time, I started to stop actually sharing. And I started to, you know, isolate myself and did the familiar mistake that, you know, a lot of us do, which is just, you know, not talk about them and try to process them alone. Things started to add up. When I started to do that, it's just like negative feelings and negative thoughts over negative thoughts. And I started to isolate myself even further. At one point in college, I really started to feel like it's taking over my emotions. I started to have long cycles of depression and anxiety that I didn't have before. And I felt like I was disconnected from the world, including my own family. Luckily, I kept myself busy, which, you know, to stop my thoughts from spiraling, because at some point, I was afraid of actually sitting alone with my own thoughts. And so to stop that from happening, I started to do work. I started to go study. I started to do things that I usually enjoy. And one of the things, you know, even though it was hard to do, one of the classes that I liked in college was a class by Ahmed, who's one of my favorite teachers. He actually thought I was never too young to actually to accomplish anything I wanted. And so in his class, I started to sketch the idea behind my first company, Feel It, which was an app to help people deal with their feelings, because I wanted that for myself. My phone stopped working for a second. So I got joined by two remarkable Saudis, Hakimi and Omar Leisa, who's here in the audience. Yeah. And, you know, we started our startup journey, and for the first time in a while, I started feeling happy. I started to actually feel motivated that I'm doing something that I like. And, you know, we launched our app, and then I started to realize that the learning curve that I'm just getting from being involved in the startup started to outpace my education in college. And so for me, I made the decision to drop out of college, which shocked like all my friends and family. But I understood that. I knew that, you know, it's impossible for anyone to know me better than I know myself. And so I made that leap, and luckily Feel It started growing. We started to have thousands of users in Saudi. We got an investment from a remarkable firm here called Bootstrap Labs. Ben and Nikolai, they found us in Dubai, and joined by Luigi, they invested in Feel It. And so we came to the US. We traveled halfway across the world, and started to try to implement our ideas behind Feel It, you know, to the world. And to our surprise, people didn't actually, you know, take it as, you know, as Saudis did. You know, people just thought that this is a silly idea. And in fact, I was pitching a lot of the times with no one actually listening. So thank you for listening. And so, you know, it's at some point, Feel It started to fail. We didn't get the number of users we wanted. We didn't get, you know, the amount of traction that was needed to sustain a company. And that was one of the most difficult times of my life. We were, you know, it was the only thing that gave me hope and happiness at the time. It was my sense of purpose. And to see it fail was a really hard thing. And it felt like the market, you know, the tech industry has come to a conclusion like that building technology was more important than building people. And that was the only thing that was giving me sense of purpose, and when it failed, I really felt like an imposter, that I was like lying to everyone, that I lied to everyone and fooled everyone, including myself. So, you know, as if all of my long life fears came true. I started to separate myself from everyone again, and I felt like no one could possibly love me if I couldn't even love myself. And so I started to actually, contemplate suicide. I started to think, what could possibly be better than death at this moment? And so I asked myself, what could possibly be better than death? And the answer to me was a life where I never felt truly alone with my emotions, where I would have had someone to talk to at any time I wanted, anywhere, with no filters. Someone who would always see the good in me, no matter what I did or said. Someone who would treat me like they would their own sibling. Someone like Sibly. While failing was hard, it turned out that giving up a true mission was just impossible. And so I embarked on the mission to start Sibly. Sibly is a mental health coach in your pocket 24/7. Anyone could get connected to a group of mental health coaches who would serve as the one voice behind Sibly that's available to you 24/7 when you need it. We believe that anxiety doesn't schedule an appointment, so you should get help right in the moment when you need it. And I could talk about, just the amazing technology and science behind it, but in reality, it's all about the people. I viewed it as my job to, find the right people for the mission. I knew, about just how to build consumer products, but I didn't know how to build a mental health company, and what's the science behind the mental health. And so Omar and I, working in the hookah, started to, think about who we could find as a third co-founder to join our mission. And luckily, we found the amazing Dr. Paula Wellborn. She's 20 years. She's a psychologist who has 20 years experience in building and evaluating mental health treatments programs, where she led one of the largest training programs in the U.S. In empirically based treatment. And so the way I found her, actually, I tried to gather all the therapists here in the U.S., which they have really horrible websites, and gathered them all in one sheet and started to call them one by one. And I was one of the calls I had. I was in a parking lot in Saudi, and I told the guy, I'm like, I'm in Saudi Arabia, and I'm trying to start this company. And he was like taken aback. But this guy, Dr. John McCullough, he actually introduced me to Paula, and I met Paula, and I told her about the ideas I had, that there should be a human in our pocket when we need it. Why isn't there? Why isn't there someone that when I need someone to talk to, I could talk to them in real time? And for her, it ticked the science boxes, that it actually true to say by science that compassion is one of the leading elements of change. That if someone is to change, they need to feel love, they need to feel compassion, and that can only be delivered through a human. No matter what we try to do with technology, I think compassion is a form of intelligence that we are yet to understand, and science is yet to figure out the depth of. And so today, after Paula joined, in 1 month, we actually launched, so it was a lot in a hurry. Today, we've served thousands of users, exchanging over 2 million messages with Sibly already. We're seeing a lot of great success due to the culture and the family people we've built. And it's exciting to see the things that are happening, in Saudi, and to bring our values and culture to wherever we go in this inflection point in history. So thank